Long ago, in the city of Medina, people of different faiths lived together. But what happens when peace breaks and trust turns into a fight? How does a new community face trouble from inside its own city? This is the story of the Banu Qaynuqa, a Jewish tribe in Medina, and how they faced justice in the early days of Islam. God tells you to be fair, to do good, and to give to your relatives. He tells you not to do bad things, not to be wrong, and not to hurt others. He teaches you so you might remember. Seerah an-Nahl 16, verse 90. What does it take to build a new place where everyone can live in peace? How do promises of friendship get tested by old feelings and hidden anger? And what small problems, hidden in daily life, can finally lead to a big fight that changes everything? The start of trouble was already there, just waiting for something to set it off. After the Hijra, when Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his followers moved from Mecca to Medina in 622 AD, Medina became their new home. Medina already had several Jewish tribes living there, like the Banu Qaynuqa, the Banu Nadir, and the Banu Qurayza. To make sure everyone lived in peace, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, made the Constitution of Madinah. This was a very important paper, like a set of rules that explained what everyone in Medina could do and what they had to do, including Muslims and Jews. The goal was to build a community where everyone respected each other, worked together, and helped defend the city from outside attacks. The Banu Qaynuqa tribe lived in a part of Medina and were known for being good goldsmiths and skilled workers. They also bought and sold things in their own market. They were a strong and rich tribe, and their agreement with the Muslims was a very important part of keeping peace in Medina. The Constitution of Madinah said they could practice their religion freely and had their rights. They just had to keep their part of the deal, which meant not hurting Muslims or helping their enemies. For a while, this plan brought peace to Medina, helping the Muslim community grow stronger. But even with the written agreement, there were hidden problems. The Banu Qaynuqa, being a strong and proud tribe, sometimes felt angry about the Muslims getting more powerful. They didn't always stick to their promise as strongly as they should have. They had a history of making friends and then breaking those friendships. Some of their leaders felt that the new rules made by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, were taking away their old power. The Muslims, for their part, tried to stay on good terms, but they also noticed small signs that things weren't right and that there might be betrayal. The Quran warns people about breaking promises. And keep your promise to God when you have made it, and do not break your oaths after you have made them strong, and you have made God a witness over you. Indeed, God knows what you do. Surah An-Nahl 1691. This verse shows how important it is to keep promises, which is a key teaching in Islam. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, always stressed that agreements must be kept, even with people of other faiths. The Battle of Badr, where the Muslims won an amazing victory against the Quraysh, had a big effect on the Jewish tribes in Medina. While it made the Muslims feel very good, it also made some Jewish leaders more scared and jealous, especially those who had hoped the Muslims would lose. The Banu Qaynuqa, in particular, started to show their anger more openly after Badr. They began to openly make fun of the Muslims, laugh at their faith, and break parts of their agreement. This growing anger created a quiet tension in Medina. It was clear that the peace was weak, and a small problem could start a big fight. The community lived in a shaky peace, where doubt and old grudges were like hidden fires, just waiting to burst into flames. The community lived in a shaky peace, where doubt and old grudges were like hidden fires, just waiting to burst into flames. That fire started with a small problem in the market. But what happened next would spread through Medina, destroying the careful balance of living together. And if you are afraid that a people will betray you, then throw their treaty back to them fairly. Indeed, God does not like traitors. Surah Al-Anfal 8:58. How could a simple trip to a goldsmith turn into a big fight, starting the fire of betrayal? What unfair act, done out of pride and disrespect, would break the holy promises of a treaty? And how would Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, react to such a clear challenge, choosing what is right over trying to keep the peace? The time for truth had come, and it needed a strong answer. The exact event that started the fight with the Banu Qaynuqa happened soon after the Battle of Badr. A Muslim woman went to the market, which was mostly run by the Banu Qaynuqa, to sell some things and visit a goldsmith. While she was there, some young men from the Banu Qaynuqa tribe, perhaps feeling proud and bold, started to bother her. They told her to show her face, which was against her modesty. When she said no, one of the goldsmiths secretly tied the bottom of her dress to her back. When she stood up, her dress was pulled off, showing her. The woman cried out, feeling shamed and embarrassed in front of everyone. Her cries for help were heard by a Muslim man who was also in the market. When he saw the unfairness and the public shame of his sister in faith, he immediately ran to help her. He faced the goldsmith who had done this, and in the fight that followed, he killed him. In return, the Banu Qaynuqa men in the market then attacked and killed the Muslim man. This sad chain of events, a disrespectful act, defending honor, and then a killing in return, quickly grew bigger. It turned a small market problem into a serious breaking of the peace. It was a clear act of betrayal against the spirit of the Constitution of Madinah, which asked for respect and protection for everyone. News of this event and the killing of the Muslim man quickly reached Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. This was more than just a sad personal event. It was a direct challenge to the power of the Islamic State and a clear breaking of their agreement. The Banu Qaynuqa had shown their true feelings. They had disrespected Muslim women and were ready to use violence against Muslims. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, understood how serious the situation was. He knew that such an act could not go unpunished if peace and fairness were to continue in Medina. If he let it go, others would feel brave enough to break agreements and threaten the safety of the Muslim community. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, immediately went to the Banu Qaynuqa's strong place, their walled area in Medina. He gathered their leaders and confronted them about what they had done. He reminded them of the agreement they had signed and how badly they had broken it. He told them to fear God and to stop their hateful behavior. He warned them about what would happen if they continued their betrayal, urging them to keep their part of the deal. However, the Banu Qaynuqa leaders, full of pride and sure of their strong position and wealth, refused to obey. They openly challenged the Prophet, peace be upon him, saying, "O Muhammad, don't be fooled by your win over some Quraysh men at Badr. They were not good fighters. By God, if you fight us, you will know that we are real men." This proud statement was a clear refusal of peace and a declaration of war. It showed their deep-seated anger and their belief in their own military strength. This defiant answer from the Banu Qaynuqa leaders left no doubt about what they planned to do. They had not only broken the agreement through what they did in the market, but they had now openly challenged Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the Muslim state. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, had tried every peaceful way. He had given them a chance to fix their wrong and keep the agreement, but they chose to fight. The situation needed a strong and fair response to keep Medina safe and to make sure the law was followed. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, knew that letting such clear betrayal go unpunished would weaken the very base of the Islamic State and put the lives of the Muslims in danger. The stage was set for a confrontation that would be a hard test of fairness and a clear moment of God's judgment. The defiant answer from the Banu Qaynuqa leaders left no doubt about what they planned to do. They had not only broken the agreement, but had now openly challenged Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the Muslim state. The stage was set for a fight that would be a hard test of fairness and a clear moment of God's judgment. And if you are afraid that a people will betray you, then throw their treaty back to them fairly. Indeed, God does not like traitors. Surah Al-Anfal 8:58. What does a leader do when faced with open defiance and a broken promise, putting his people's safety at risk? How does fairness win when betrayal comes from inside the city walls? And what important lessons would be carved into the hearts of believers as a community faced the results of its choices under God's watchful eye? The attack was a tough test of truth, showing what happens when trust is broken. Facing the Banu Qaynuqa's open defiance and their clear breaking of the agreement, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, made a strong decision. He told the Muslim army to surround the Banu Qaynuqa's fort, their walled area inside Medina. This was a necessary step to keep the Muslim community safe and to make sure justice was done. The Banu Qaynuqa had gone into their strongholds, sure that their defenses would protect them. They believed their wealth and strong forts would make them unbeatable against the Muslims. The attack began. The Muslim army surrounded the Banu Qaynuqa's area, cutting off their food and stopping anyone from going in or out. The Banu Qaynuqa, who were mostly goldsmiths and traders, were not used to long wars or being surrounded. They had depended on their wealth and their friends, but now they were alone. The attack lasted for 15 days. During this time, the Banu Qaynuqa stayed inside their fort, refusing to give up. They hoped their friends would come to help them, or that the Muslims would eventually leave. But no help came. Their old allies, seeing the Prophet's strong will and the fairness of his cause, did not get involved. As the attack continued, the Banu Qaynuqa's food ran out, and they started to lose hope. They realized that fighting was useless, and that they couldn't stand against the Muslims' determination. Finally, after 15 days of being stuck inside their walls, they had no choice but to give up. They opened their gates, putting themselves at the mercy of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. This moment of surrender was a clear judgment from God. It wasn't about destroying them, but about fairness being served for their betrayal and aggression. It showed that pride and broken promises would not go unpunished. When they surrendered, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, talked with his companions about what to do with them. By the rules of that time, a tribe that broke a treaty and was surrounded and defeated could face very harsh results, including being killed or made slaves. However, Abdullah ibn Ubay, the leader of the hypocrites in Medina, who had old ties with the Banu Qaynuqa, pleading strongly begged for them. He insisted that their lives be spared. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, known for his kindness and wisdom, listened to his pleas. The decision for the Banu Qaynuqa was their removal from Medina. They were allowed to take their families and their movable belongings, but they had to leave behind their weapons and their land. This was a harsh but kind punishment. It was a clear result of their betrayal and their threat to the peace of Medina, but it saved their lives. This decision showed the Prophet's, peace be upon him, fairness. He was firm when needed, but always leaned towards kindness. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Be kind to others, and you will receive kindness." Musnad Ahmad, Hadith 6571. While what they did could have led to a worse fate by the rules of the time, the Prophet chose a path that ensured fairness without unnecessary bloodshed. The Banu Qaynuqa gathered their things and left Medina, heading north towards a place called Adhriyat in Syria. Their removal sent a clear message to all tribes in Medina and beyond. Agreements with the Muslims must be honored, and betrayal would not be allowed. This event was a very important step in making Medina stable inside and making the Islamic State stronger. It showed that the Muslim community could defend itself and uphold fairness, even against strong threats from within. This event was a tough but necessary lesson in the early days of Islam. It made sure that the new community was built on trust, fairness, and always obeying God. The Banu Qaynuqa's leaving was a very important moment. It made sure that the new Muslim community was built on trust, fairness, and always obeying God. This was a tough but necessary lesson. It shaped the future of Medina and kept the new Islamic State safe. Indeed, in their stories is a lesson for those who understand. Surah Yusuf 12:1-11. Thoughtful. What important lessons does this story of betrayal and fairness teach us about keeping promises and what happens when you break them? Surprised. How does this event continue to be important through history, guiding believers in times of war and peace? Contemplative. And what timeless truths about safety, unity, and God's fairness can we, as Muslims today, learn from the early days of Islam in Medina? The echoes of this event still remind us how a fair society is built. The Banu Qaynuqa, leaving Medina, had a quick and big impact. It removed a source of trouble inside the city and made the Muslim community safer. With them gone, the Muslims gained more control over the market and trade routes in the city, making their financial position even stronger. More importantly, it sent a clear message to the other Jewish tribes in Medina, Banu Nadir and Banu Qurayza, and other groups. The Constitution of Madinah was a serious agreement, and breaking it would have strong consequences. This showed that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was the final judge of fairness in Medina. The story of the Banu Qaynuqa teaches us deep and lasting lessons for Muslims throughout history. The importance of promises. It teaches us how extremely important it is to keep agreements and promises. Thoughtful. In Islam, breaking a promise without a good reason is a very serious wrong. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, always stressed keeping promises, even with enemies. This event shows the serious results of breaking such important trusts. What happens after betrayal and pride? The Banu Qaynuqa's downfall happened because of their pride. How they openly made fun of Muslims, how they shamed the Muslim woman, and how they then refused to obey the Prophet, peace be upon him. Their story warns us against pride and the dangers of thinking too little of faith and fairness. Fairness and safety. The Prophet's, peace be upon him, action, though strong, was based on fairness. Sending them away was a necessary step to keep Medina safe and stable. It teaches that a fair society must have clear rules and consequences for those who threaten its peace, even if it means making tough choices. The Prophet's wisdom and kindness. Even with the serious wrong they did, and the normal rules of war at the time, the Prophet, peace be upon him, chose to send the Banu Qaynuqa away instead of killing them. This act of kindness, saving their lives while removing the danger, shows his caring leadership and how he followed Islamic rules even in difficult times. Unity and inner strength. This event made the Muslim community stronger and more united. It showed that true believers would stand together against unfairness, whether it came from outside enemies or from betrayal within. This strong unity inside the community was very important for the new Islamic State to survive and grow. The story of the Banu Qaynuqa is not just an old event. It's a deep lesson in Islamic law, good behavior, and leadership. It reminds us that building a fair and safe community needs clear rules, always sticking to principles, and a strong hand when facing betrayal, but always with kindness. What happened with the Banu Qaynuqa made Prophet Muhammad's, peace be upon him, power in Medina firm and kept the Muslim community safe, building a stronger base for Islam's future. The echoes of their departure are a timeless reminder of how important trust is and how fairness always wins in the end.